Hey y'all, I'm back and I have some Glitch in the Matrix stories that I'm so excited to read. These are some of my favorite stories, so let's get into this. Friend died in 2003, but now he's alive. In 2003, I learned that a school friend had died. A friend of his girlfriend told me about it. He just died in his sleep at 23 years old. I asked if substances were involved and she said no. She was really sad because they had just gotten engaged. I told myself I would send condolences, but I never did. I remember talking to a mutual friend a few years later, and I got the sense that it was still a really sensitive subject. A couple years ago, I got a friend request from this guy. I didn't think it was real, so I ignored it. Today, I learned that he's alive. He married the girl he was engaged to, the same one that he had died next to. The mutual friend I had spoken to about it now thinks I'm crazy. I just asked him to remember the conversation we had about the death. Because I just don't even understand how that's possible. Because how do you mistake something like that? How do you what, you dream it and then just truly believe it for years and years and years? And nobody will even bring up this person because it's a sensitive subject. How does that even happen? My wife and I saw our 5-year-old daughter, but older. This happened a few months ago. In early January, my wife and I were in the kitchen, prepping lunch and chatting. Our 5-year-old daughter was in the living room watching TV. No one else was in the house. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and the layout of the house allows us to see a bit of the corridor and the hallway outside the kitchen door. My wife was cutting up food and I was sitting behind her. As we talked, she started turning around to face me but stopped midway, staring at the kitchen door. She froze up completely and I remember asking, "What is it?" She let out a loud gasp and then I instinctively looked towards the door as well. I saw a brief glimpse of what seemed like a person turning the corner towards the living room. It happened very fast, but I was sure I saw someone. I panicked. My immediate thought was, holy fuck, someone broke in and my daughter's alone in the living room. The only thing I thought of doing was grabbing a knife and yelled at my wife to call the police. I rushed into the corridor and into the living room. There was nothing. My kid was just sitting on the couch watching Bluey. She looked at me and asked, "What's up?" with a confused expression. Mind you, I had a knife in my hand and probably looked crazy. I tried to play it off and asked if she saw anyone come in the room. She hadn't and was clueless about what I was talking about. I searched the living room and the rest of the house. No sign of a break-in, windows closed, and we live on the 3rd floor. If someone had tried to escape that way, they would have fallen really bad. I checked everywhere. Wardrobes, behind curtains, the front door. Nothing. No signs of entry, and the front door was totally closed and we didn't hear anyone come in or anything of the sort. This all happened within maybe 10 minutes. I went back to the kitchen where my wife was crying. She had frozen up and didn't call the cops. I calmed her down. She got scared bad and she couldn't even speak properly. When she calmed down, she explained to me what she saw. I personally only caught a very quick glimpse of the thing turning around the corner. However, my wife says she got a really good look at it. She says that she saw what looked like a tall woman dressed in a floral dress and high heels walking across the corridor. Neither of us heard any sound though. She said the woman stopped when she understood she was seen, looked my wife in the eyes, and my wife swears the figure looked like our daughter, but older. This happened in the space of seconds when she was first froze up in shock. When my wife gasped, the woman hurried and turned the corner into the living room. I only saw the last part. If I hadn't caught a glimpse of it, I would have asked my wife to go into therapy or something, but I know something was there. We never figured out what we saw, but it was definitely the strangest moment of my life, and I know it happened, and I wanted to share. I don't like that because, I just don't even understand the reason. Why is your daughter's older self, time traveling to come visit you? For what fucking reason? Get out. Okay, this one says, I spoke to a ghost today. While walking through International Peace Gardens in Glendale, Utah, I noticed an elderly couple sitting on a bench facing away from me. As I walked around, I saw the sweet little lady get up and walk around some bushes by the path I was on. She passed me and said hi. I said hello back. As I walked around the bushes, this little old Hispanic man was still talking. He looked up at me and kind of giggled and said he was just talking to his wife. I replied, well, she just left you to go to your car or something. I thought it was funny this little old man was still talking to himself, not realizing she had walked away. He looks at me and in his broken English tells me that she left a couple years ago, that she had died. Surprised, I said, wait, I just said hi to her. He immediately pulled out his wallet and showed me pictures of her and explained to me how that was their favorite place in the world. It blew me away and brought me to tears. I sat with the man for a few minutes while he showed me more pictures of her and then his kids and his grandkids and how proud and happy he was even though she was gone. This is gonna make me cry. He told me that he still goes there because he can feel that she's there. I had to agree because those pictures, oh my god, I'm crying, stop. I had to agree because those pictures were that sweet little old lady who said hi as she passed me. Why am I literally crying? That's the sweetest but saddest thing I've ever read. What the fuck? Get a grip. Okay, we're gonna move on. Something happened today and I don't know who to tell. I was running late for work this morning while my wife was tending to our 1-year-old who is sick with a cold. She asked if I could stop at the Walgreens down the street to get some cough medicine. I was in a huge rush but didn't want him to go without it, so I headed over there as quickly as I could. My wife and I were on the phone as I was driving and pulling into the parking lot. The street was busy, packed with cars. As I was walking to the store, I noticed a woman putting her screaming child into her car just outside the store. My wife was reminding me which medicine to buy as I checked my phone for the time, and that's when it got weird. The second I walked into the store, my phone turned off and the call dropped. The sliding door closed behind me and the entire store was empty. The lighting was different than what I was used to, fluorescent and cold. There was no one at the front and no one in any aisles I could see. I turned around to look outside and there were no cars in the street. Not even the woman who was just there 5 seconds ago. I actually said hello twice, loudly, feeling like this was some sort of horror movie I was in. The entire store was silent and I go to grab my phone again to film this in case nobody believed me, and of course it won't turn on. I turn the corner down a random aisle and just like that, there's people there. The lighting is different now and warmer. There was even music. I turn to look at the front and there's a customer mid-transaction with a cashier. My phone starts working again and my wife is calling me. She tells me it just went silent and the call failed. I stood there for a minute and realized there was nothing I could do but buy the medicine and go on with my day. I don't know if this was a glitch in the Matrix, odd and coincidental timing, or some weird parallel universe type stuff, but all I know is it was strange as hell and I really don't know who to tell this to. That's terrifying. Because I would never go back to that Walgreens ever again. Don't care. Just experienced my most clear glitch in the Matrix, and kiddo did too. Both so confused. So random and bizarre, and I can't wrap my head around it. My husband made pizza rolls for our kids. I got them out of the oven and on plates. Each plate had 10 pizza rolls. Walked over to set my daughter's, who's 6 years old, plate on the table. She's autistic, mostly only relevant because of her reaction, and was excitedly jumping up and down by the table, and I happened to stumble and 2 pizza rolls fell off the plate, falling towards her. So she reached out to catch them, and before our eyes, they just vanished. Right before she caught them. Totally gone, not even in a blink. Eyes were wide open and they just disappeared like a magic trick. I thought maybe they didn't actually fall off and we both just panicked and thought they did, but there were only 8 on the plate. So clearly they did. We stared at each other for a moment and she just says, "What?" I was speechless for a moment, then was like, okay, they couldn't have just disappeared, so we look under the table, all over the room. Finally, I call my dogs in, like, screw it. Even if they eat them, I just want them found. Nothing. And they would have 100% found them if they were there. And they're not even sniffing around like food had recently been there. They're just gone. And my daughter's so pissed, even though I made her a couple more. But what the fuck? I've never experienced something like that, at least not literally in front of my eyes. And the fact that my daughter saw it too, she's literally still moving everything in the room around 20 minutes later because how is that possible? She wants an explanation and I've got nothing. I don't either. Where did they go? Those kind of situations remind me of Halloween Town, where like you lose something and it ends up in that one guy's house. Like they're just like in a pile of socks right now. With whatever, what was his name? I don't know. At best friend's funeral, me and 2 others saw her breathing deeply for 20 seconds. So we were viewing her body at her wake. We 3 were her best friends and the last ones in line. One of the girls was stroking her hair, saying how peaceful she looked. She looked just like she was sleeping. Suddenly, we see her embalmed body that had been dead for a week start to take deep, slow, meditative breaths. We were in shock at first, staring at this glitch or phenomenon. After about 20 seconds, we all looked at each other with the look of, did we all just witness that? At that moment, the ushers present and broke the spell and she was inanimate again. We confirmed what had happened while smoking outside. We all saw her breathe in and out for about 10 or 20 seconds. We never spoke of it again for some odd reason. This was 22 years ago, but I'm the only one who's still alive out of the 3 of us. I believe the deceased was showing us that death is absolutely not the end. I would be like, she's not dead. Wake her up. She's not dead. She's not dead. I just don't even know what I would do. I don't know. How are we gonna bury her when she's breathing? A strange person walked into the house and said hello. It was my dad. Years ago, when I was around 18 and lived with my parents, I was sitting in the living room chatting with my mom and sister. My dad had gone out to play pool a few hours earlier. We heard the back door open, which was not visible from the living room, and continued to chat as we assumed it was my dad coming home. As soon as we heard the footfalls of the person inside the house walking towards the living room, we all paused and stared at each other, confused. My dad was a tall, heavy man and had a very distinctive footfall, and these were different. They did not have the same weight or pattern. My immediate thought was, did Dad invite someone over, even though that's not something he ever did? As the footsteps got closer, we heard a man's voice call, "I'm home." And I looked to my mom and sister, who both seemed as concerned as I was. The voice sounded nothing like my dad's or anyone's voice we would recognize. I don't think he could even sound like that if he tried. I can't describe it other than it was a completely different voice. Someone else's voice. My mom stood up, shaken, just as my dad rounded the corner into the living room. We just stared at him in shock. "Dad, was someone else in the house?" I asked. He gave me a puzzled look and asked what I meant. My mom then asked, "Whose voice was that?" We asked if he was speaking in some kind of different voice, and he said, baffled, no, and there was no one else in the house and he was speaking in his normal voice. It has unsettled my mom, sister, and I ever since. It's hard to convey over text, but it was an entirely different person's voice. If it was only me who was there, I would have doubted myself, but we all had the exact same experience. It was like the universe got confused and assigned the wrong person, but corrected it at the last second. We still talk about that time that dad came home, but it wasn't dad. No, because like the sheer panic I would feel in the 2 seconds before he walked around the corner being like, there's a stranger in my home who's like, "I'm home." And then it's your dad. Whose voice is that? Because it just doesn't even make any sense. I'm so sorry. Guy is not using words at work when speaking. This happened yesterday and today. I honestly thought I was having a stroke or something. I have an IT internship at a tech company, and one of the people in my office is a little strange, but not in a personality manner. He seems to be well liked, actually. I've noticed yesterday that I do not understand a word that man is saying. Now, I know what you think, and no, it's not a different language or an accent. It's straight up not words. I know my way around heavy accents, so if he had one, I could at least understand some words, but I don't. When he talked today, I legit focused in on him talking for a full minute and not one word made sense. And yes, other people talk to him and understand him. An actual conversation I heard today went like this. Guy number 1, "Hey." Guy number 2, "How are you? How's that project going?" Guy 2, Guy 1, "Awesome, thanks. You're still down to get food later?" Guy 2, more random noises. Guy 1, "All right, neat. Well, check out the place you recommended." Before anyone tries to say anything racist or whatever, this is a pasty white dude. This internship ends tomorrow and I can't stop thinking about it. Like, what the hell is going on? I feel like they have to be pranking you, honestly. Because I don't, or I don't know. But I feel like I have spoken to people like that who, like, I know they're speaking English. I know they are. You know those, okay, this is a weird comparison. You know those pictures that you can't make out anything in the photo, but you almost can? I feel like that's how it feels. Well, is that like an obvious comparison actually? I don't know, people post those photos that are like, they're just so weirdly morphed that you can't quite make out what the things are, but you know that there's something there. That's how this feels. Because it's like, you know they're speaking English, but you have no fucking idea what they're saying. Maybe that was an obvious comparison. I thought it was like revolutionary. Okay, we're gonna read a couple more. "Why do you have bruises all over your legs?" Years ago, I was working on a psych ward. One of the residents, a teenager who barely spoke other than to ask the time, approached me and said, "Miss, why do you have bruises all over your legs?" I laughed at the randomness of this question and asked what they meant by it, but they just said, "Nothing, never mind," and walked away. I was wearing pants, so I'm not sure how they would have even known if I had bruises on my legs. When I got home, I checked and there were none. Over the next week though, they started appearing, with no explainable cause. My legs became a patchwork of purple, yellow, and blue. I was assigned other units for the next several weeks, and the client discharged before I had the chance to talk to them again. But the painful bruises stayed for a while, as did the creeps. I had completely forgotten about this incident until I started reading through my old journals recently, and it gave me chills all over again. Thought it might be worth sharing. Has anyone else experienced glitches that cause inexplicable pain or injury? Why do I feel like they're like a demon? That's my first reaction, is like, there's some sort of, I don't know. Because to say that, then all of a sudden you're covered in bruises. Or maybe they were like a medium and they knew something was like weirdly attached to you and something's like, I feel like that's paranormal. Am I the only one? Am I insane? Okay, this one is short but weird. Dialed the wrong number, found who I was looking for. I'm dating myself here, but mid-80s, I was calling my girlfriend from a payphone. Don't remember why. Dialing from memory. I'm not sure if I dialed the correct number, but when I asked for my girlfriend by name, I was told, with confusion, obvious in her mother's voice, to hold on a minute. I had not been connected to my girlfriend's house, but called one of her mother's friend's house, who they had just stopped in to visit. How this happened, I will never know. That's weird as hell. That is weird. And somebody literally replied, like commented on that and said, I was standing on a corner waiting to cross the road in the 1980s and a payphone on the street started ringing. I picked it up. It was a wrong number, but I knew the person on the phone. My city had a population of 1.5 million at the time. What are the chances? Because that makes, no, I don't care. I don't care. We live in a simulation. That's the only explanation. Okay, this is the last one I'm gonna read. My toddler fell forward onto the open oven door while I was baking and landed several feet away. Completely fine. I don't think I've shared this story here, but this is why I joined the subreddit. And my daughter is 21 now. This happened when she was maybe 2.5 years old. I was in the kitchen, which was wide open to the living room. Husband was on the couch watching TV, half asleep. Daughter toddling around. I opened the oven door to check on food and turned to get a pot holder out of the nearby drawer. When I turned back around, my daughter was almost to me and suddenly fell forward with her hands out. I shrieked, "Oh God, help," to my husband, and in that instant, images flashed through my mind of her landing in it, burning herself horrifically, us going to the emergency room, her being there for a very, very long time, months. Her growing older at various stages, covered in horrible burn scars and scar tissue limiting the movement in her hands and on her face. Her going through plastic surgery after plastic surgery. Our life becoming all about hospitals and surgeries. I felt I lived those lifetimes all in an instant. Then suddenly, I snapped back into the present and my husband was looking at me saying, "What?" all irritated. And my daughter was on her hands and knees at least 3 feet back from the oven, where she definitely wasn't seconds prior. I said, "She fell and almost landed right on the oven door." And he said, "She's nowhere near there," and just took a sip of his beer. No offense, but I hate your husband. I've never ever forgotten this. It was a defining moment in my parenting life, despite her being my youngest and me living through a lot. I told her about this when she was an adult and she was shocked and she didn't remember it happening, and I just said, "Well, you wouldn't because somehow you fell down and toddlers do that a lot." And she's told me a few times since how shaken she felt hearing it and how it haunts her now, because she feels like the timeline was somehow real and happened, but it didn't. I've never been so thankful for a glitch in my life. I've never experienced anything like it, and I still think about it from time to time and my heart jumps into my throat. I know what happened. There's zero doubt that it is what it is. I'm like so grateful. That's like the stories where like you get into a car accident and all of a sudden you glitch back and you're still at the intersection. Like, it's something that could have been so horrific, but it didn't happen, and thank God it didn't happen. All right, well, that's all I'm gonna read for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any weird glitch in the matrix stories that you wanna share with me or the community, I will have my subreddit linked down below. But other than that, I'm gonna go. I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next one. Bye.